Welcome to Melt University's 2020 summer program. This year, our virtual intern program will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Here's your host, President and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Summer 2020, Virtual Melt University. We're rolling on with these amazing podcasts. We've had some tremendous guests who have just incredible wisdom, incredible wit, and I know I've enjoyed conducting these interviews. I hope as much as you've enjoyed listening to them and the learnings and the key learnings and the great advice. But today is probably going to be the most special podcast I ever do in my life, if not one of the top ones ever. One of my favorite people alive, and then I wouldn't be where I am without this guardian angel. I've told all of you that you got to, no matter where you go, you got to have guardian angels. If particularly if you're like me and you get in a lot of trouble, you have to have a lot of guardian angels around you. But Dina Gerson, there's no way, there's no title that I can lay out that will properly express who she is and what she does. But my title for her is that she's the grande dame of Olympic marketing, not only for the Coca-Cola Company, but probably throughout the world. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. We'll get into how many Olympics, not counting this summer, that she's been involved in, and she and I've been involved in a lot of them together, and been my dear friend for 20 years, a longtime veteran of the Coca-Cola Company with their sports. And again, like I said, just so well respected worldwide by the Olympic movement. So many Olympic athletes. We've worked with so many of them together, and but also a great community leader, fine human being, and I think you're going to really love learning about her story today, because I think I'm going to learning about new things about her story today as well. So, Dina, welcome to Melt University.
Thank you, Vince. And I'm truly humbled and honored to be included in this summer's Melt U. I've been looking forward to it all summer long, and I appreciate your very kind and warm intro.
Well, you know, the only regret that I love the fact that we're able to do this virtually so you can share it with so many more kids. But what I regret about you not being able to come in live this summer is for our, and maybe we'll do something for our kids in the future. But when Dina comes to speak to our kids, she's always the favorite speaker, because she brings and bears so many great goodies and great prizes and everybody loves Olympic swag and the pins and all of those things. So we'll have to have some kind of virtual Olympic goodie day for our students of Melt University, because you're always so gracious, so generous. But before we dive into a lot of these things, really sort of overall, talk about your actual role of managing the Olympic partnership within the Coca-Cola Company, because students, you may not know that Coca-Cola is the longest running sponsor of the Olympic movement since 1928, and arguably would not be the property that it is today without the Coca-Cola's global involvement. And like I said, Dina has overseen that and directed it, and it's been a giant contributor to the Olympic movement. But sort of talk about, because everybody goes, oh my God, that'd be so cool working in the Olympics and all this, and you do have a really cool a job, and so talk about sort of your role within managing this gigantic partnership.
So my responsibility is to manage our partnership with the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee and the United States Olympic and Paralympic property. And with that, anything and everything that has to do with the Olympics in the United States, I have the pleasure and the privilege of managing. So anything that has to do with Team USA comes my way. The other part of my job responsibility is managing the partnerships with the athletes, with the Olympic and Paralympic athletes, the hopefuls and the legends that the Coca-Cola Company partners with. And so every 2 years, we decide and determine what our core creative idea is, what our strategies are, which brands will be included in our Olympic program. And then I work with each of the different brand teams on selection criteria for their brands. And then we then partner to find which athletes will be the face of that brand for the game. So I have an entire process that I go through to select the right athletes for the specific brands. And it's based on the selection criteria that I mentioned. So it's everything from, if they love that brand.
Authenticity is key.
Yes, genuine, real, and authentic is the first words that I think of when talking about the Coca-Cola brand. So we want somebody who's genuine, real, authentic. We want somebody with an amazing story. We want somebody who can tell their story to 5 people or 5,500 people. We want them to be articulate, to be diverse in gender, sport, and ethnicity. We want them to be relatable. We want them to look good on point of sale. So those are some of the attributes for the Coke brand that we are looking for. And then, as I said, each brand has their own particular selection criteria. It's a big jigsaw puzzle at the end of the day, because we start with 600 athletes and we pare them down to about 14. And so I work with and talk to everyone from the IOC to the USO, PC, NPP, Team USA, NBC. I talk to the media. I talk to the national governing bodies, the NGBs. I talk to a lot of the different sports agents and anybody and everybody, a lot of the announcers on NBC and a lot of the beat followers. So talk to a lot of different people to get the intel to figure out who we partner with.
Well, and we got a lot to unpack here, but one thing you've just pointed out is that your job within the Coca-Cola Company is that you're the bridge, you're the ultimate connector between this gigantic, massive mosaic, this massive jigsaw puzzle, and even though Olympics come around every 2 or 4 years, the accelerated process because of the athletes who are training, and they may get hurt, they may fall out, or goodness, gracious, we have it with first time in a long time we've had a Olympics postponed. But one thing I do want to talk about a little bit later on is that the IOC is the ultimate oversight of the entire process, and then within the U.S. Olympic Committee, the United States Paralympic Committee. And then if our listeners aren't familiar with the term NGB, it's called a national governing body. So within each sport of the Olympic, they have a governing body. So it's U.S. track and field or U.S. swimming and those types of things. And then as you mentioned, the television networks, and obviously NBC is a multi-billion-dollar massive broadcaster. And then within that, the agents who are managing the talent process and the athlete process. Because one thing that that our kids and I are learning this summer is that they may see Olympics, but then they don't maybe quite understand or realize that within that there are so many job opportunities within that. And as we relate it back to the campus, we say the campus is the ultimate professional laboratory, but many of these Olympic type teams, say at Texas or Auburn, where you went to school and I went to school, they've got a great swim team. They've got a great track and field team, and even begin the volunteering process while they're in schools. But within the quote unquote Olympic movement, I mean, depending on what a kid wants to do, there's really an unlimited amount of opportunities, are there not?
You are right. You are so right. And I love the fact that you called me a connector. Because at the end of the day, it's the opportunity that I have to connect the athletes to our brands, the athletes to our system, our bottlers, our consumers, our associates, anybody and everybody who touches our brands. I want to have them enamored with the Olympics and all that comes with it. And to be able to have Olympic dreams come true and make those connections. We change the livelihoods of many different athletes, and then we also have the opportunity to change and spark something in consumers and our bottlers when they meet these athletes.
Well, and let me tell you, we've actually had a great summer, and our students have learned a lot because it's still so fascinating to me. They've learned a lot about the Coca-Cola system. They've learned a lot about the role of mothership. They've learned a lot about the role of the bottlers. They've learned the history of the bottlers. They've learned the relationship between mothership and the bottlers, and then how we work with what we call Coca-Cola, quote unquote customers, which is a 7-Eleven or a Walmart or a Target or somebody like that. But okay, so let's take it all the way back. And we've had a lot of great kids from the University of Texas, Hook'em Horns, and in our program, tremendous kids from Texas. We love that place, and that's kind of where I thought the legend of Dina Gerson started. But you informed me today that it may have even been started earlier in high school, because one thing, Dina, that we talk about there's 2 or 3 things we talk about to our kids on the campuses. One is that pursue your passion. If you're passionate about what you're involved in, you never work a day in your life. And when you get to school, and we've heard this from a lot of our speakers, you may be set on, say, becoming a doctor or biologist or somebody, and then you get to school and you go, God, I don't like that. I don't like this. I like brand management. I want to switch to that. And that's okay too. We're hearing a lot of that, particularly now in this COVID era where everything's kind of on the table and at stake. But so let's take it all the way back to high school, because I want to hear this too. And then I want to talk about, your experience at Texas, and then kind of what sort of got you on this path. I know you had started a good career at Macy's here, and then obviously the rest is history.
So thank you for asking, and I love telling this story. I actually call it my aha moment. And my aha moment, or your aha moment, can be anywhere with anyone. And my aha moment happened to be my senior year in high school. I was co-editor of my high school newspaper, and you
obviously had a passion for communications and those types of things already.
Did. Correct.
Okay.
However,
by the way, I didn't know that.
I know, but this is priceless, and that's why I love that I get to share this story with you, and I think it's so important. So in my head, I thought, and I loved being this co-editor. It was I love being creative and innovative, and I just love the creative side of the business. And so when I went to thank my journalism teacher my senior year, at the end, my mother and I went up to my high school, Hillcrest High School, for anybody who grew up in Dallas. And I went to go thank my journalism teacher for just the best 2 years in high school, because it was game changing. And I found my passion, as you say. So we go up to school and get my journalism teacher, and we go up to thank her. And I said, thank you so much. I'm so excited. You've been the most amazing teacher and mentor. And, now I'm getting ready to go pursue my passion. And she said, where are you going to school? And I said, University of Texas, of course, Hook'em. And she said, and what are you gonna major in? And I said, journalism, of course. And I gave her a look that, if you know me, you'll know the look that I gave her.
I think I've had that look.
I think you've had it too. So I looked at her like my mother's looking at me, like, I can't believe she's my mother's looking at me like, I can't believe she's asking you what you're majoring in. Like, she didn't know what to think. And I'm looking at my mother like, I've got this. And I was like, journalism, of course. And my journalism teacher looked at me and she said, Dina, you don't love journalism. And I looked at her and I was like, I've had the most incredible 2 years of my life. And she's like, you love that creative outlet. You love the cut lines and the headlines and the putting the photos together and being creative and all that. You don't like writing that hard news story and all that. And I said, you know what? You're right.
Wow.
Okay, exactly. My aha moment. In that moment, my senior year, at the end of my senior year, was so incredibly special and such a gift. And I would not be here today talking to you if she didn't say that. Because in that moment, I realized exactly what she said. As part of the newspaper, the Hillcrest Hurricane, we had to sell advertising. We had to create
Right.
the headlines and the cut lines, and it was very different than social media and everything is now, but it was a very different process.
Trust me, I was there at
I
all.
know you were, but for those of you that weren't, we were involved in the entire process, and I procrastinated like crazy. If I had a story due
Right,
that
right.
was about anything other, it was the hard news. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. I hated writing, and I love the creative part. So she could see something in me that nobody had pointed out, that innately I knew what I liked, but I never processed it or thought about it. I thought, I'm co-editor of my high school newspaper. I should go into journalism, when in fact she said, you need to go into advertising, no ifs, ands, or buts, and you need to go down a different path. So I went to University of Texas. I majored in advertising. At Texas, I was fortunate to have 3 different internships. I worked at GSD&M back in the day. It was the hottest shop in the
Big time, big
Southwest.
time, big time. Yep.
Yep, I worked for Roy Spence, the president, and the founders had all gone to University of Texas, and was friendly with all of them, and it was the coolest, best agency experience. So I would go to school in the morning. I would go to morning classes. I would go back to the sorority house and eat lunch and watch All My Children. That was a must.
Oh yeah,
That was on
Erica Kane.
Yep. And then, and full circle, I got to do a special event with Erica Kane when I was at Macy's, but I digress. Then I would go to GSD&M, and I'd work until all hours of the night, because at an agency, Vince, as you well know, the job never is done. And so I got good news, bad news. I got my work ethic at GSD&M in college, and it was the best on the job experience. And I worked at GSD&M as a paid intern, very fortunately, for 3 years. I think my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I also had a couple of other internships, one at the Frank Irwin Special Events Center, which is like, here it's like the State Farm Arena, the old Omni. So I worked in the marketing department on special events and learned the whole media component behind all these different special events, whether it was radio or newspaper advertising. I just wanted to learn a different facet. And then I also sold advertising for the Austin Homes and Gardens, which I never wanted to do again. So I know I didn't want to. I knew I didn't want to
You
go
knew.
into
Well, that's
sales.
what we talk about. You may not know what you want to do, but
Exactly.
sometimes you know what you don't want to do.
But I think that's incredibly important in internships. You learn exactly what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And I knew what I did and didn't want to do. And I knew I loved that agency experience, because that then got me to work on the Southwest Airlines account. And I then worked on special events for Southwest Airlines with Herb Kelleher, who was the chairman of the board at that point in time, and one of the greatest CEOs of all time.
All time, right?
Yeah, I loved. He was all about fun and doing things different and creative and out of the box, and it was just an incredible experience. And with that, I was able to earn my keep and really love that whole special event side of the business. So remember, I went from advertising, now I'm in special events, and that whole world would have not opened up for me had I gone down the journalism path, because I would have been so miserable. But during college, I pledged a sorority, A Phi, at Texas. I was a pledge trainer my junior year, and what they called a hell captain my senior year. It sounds different than it was, but it was an honor. I think there were 5 of us that were chosen. And I'm sharing this story with you because you always had to have a theme. And of course, that was 1984, and what was going on in 1984. it was the LA 1984 Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I chose the Olympics as the theme for our week, our very special
Wow.
week. And as I
Okay.
think about it, foreshadowing, if you will. But who knew that was in 1984? We're in 2020, and 12 Olympics later, with many torch relays and over 100 Olympic and Paralympic athletes that I've partnered with. Who knew back in the day that the Olympics would be so important to me?
Mm.
But, I think about my passion then and my passion now. It hasn't wavered.
Right.
It's just been a blessing.
Well, you said a couple. You said a lot of great stuff, but there's a couple things, and I want to hone in on it because this is one thing that I talk about in the book, and this kind of this, not the same story, but similar story. When I was going to go to Auburn to be a sports writer, go back to Mobile, write for the Mobile Press Register, and I was like, well, I don't know, but I didn't know any other different. And then the guest lecturer was the head of sports information, and I was like, man, I really want to do that. But think about this: two things. Think about if your counselor had not said anything,
Mm-hmm.
but what if you'd have said, or you and your mother, like, well, she's crazy, she's full of herself, we're not going to listen to this. But we call it taking the shot. And in your own way, you listened, and you're like, and so, first of all, that person cared enough to say that,
Right.
and secondly, you cared enough to listen and go, maybe she's right. And then and she said what you were thinking all along, but you could have just dismissed that out of hand, but instead you were open to it. You were listening to it. And that's what we tell the kids. It's like, no matter what, if it's something you want to hear, you don't want to hear, listen, take that shot, and you don't know what path it'll get you on. So I think to our students, I think, what they are hearing is that, if I had just packed my stuff up and left that journalism class that day and never bothered to go introduce myself after the class was over, who knows, you and I wouldn't be friends. We would have these amazing experiences together. But I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing that you really talked about is not only the value and importance of internships, and obviously we're going to be evolving into virtual internships, which we've had a lot this summer. And but you were willing to do anything. You were willing to take on, during your intern programs and Roy spins, but you were willing to do and take on anything. And that's the thing that we're telling our kids now, is that you're not going to be a CEO overnight. You got to grind. You look at a unicorn like a Mark Zuckerberg, but you and I are still grinding and still practicing our craft, even today.
I love it, because the career advice, when I do talk to a lot of young people and students, and some of the career advice I give is always add value, because if you don't, somebody else will. And always ask how you can help beyond what is expected. I would also say that at every meeting or Zoom conversation these days, act like you're being interviewed, because you are. You may only have, one chance for a first impression. You may not be on a Zoom call with that person ever again, but you can speak up and make a difference. And, as I think about that, I've had such an opportunity to make a difference. At Coke, my job wasn't my job until I created it, if you will. There was a unique opportunity that I saw to take my experience by being a connector, as you say, being in relationship management, and hone in on my unique skills as a leader, as somebody who can pull people together and loves to connect people and mentor people. And, the job I have, there's nobody else in the company that has my job. That's very unique at the Coca-Cola Company.
No, it is amazing. But you made you found that niche, you created that niche, you made yourself indispensable. But I want to go back to what you just said, because we have been saying it this entire summer. We've preached it. We've heard it from the great ones. But always, there's two things you just nailed the head on. I think you've already read my book in advance, Dina, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But
No, you haven't. I'm looking for my signed copy.
You'll have tons of them. You'll have more. You can decorate for the holidays with the book. But you hit on something. Always be trying to add value.
Yes.
to no matter what you do.
Yep.
And we tell that if you can add value to a situation or a person or an employer, um, you're always going to be, or most of the time, indispensable. And the other thing is, you just hit it on the head, and we say this every interaction that our students and our kids and that we're all having are auditions, and you never know where that audition is going to pique somebody's interest. And everybody goes, well, I thought auditions were in music and entertainment and movies and TV and film. But all of life and every professional endeavor is a giant audition, is it not?
It is. And I will also say that right now in this current environment, which is so challenging, and it reminds me of when I graduated, how tough the economy was back then. And I had gotten some advice that I still give to this day. The advice is that when you're looking for a job and you've found a job that you want, or you're looking for one, and you're seeking to talk to the hiring manager, ask for an informational interview.
Bingo.
And the reason why I share that with you is, if somebody says to me, Dina, I'd like to talk to you about a job in your group. Well, right now, lots of jobs are frozen. I may not have a position available. And that would be I don't want to waste your time because I don't have anything. So we're not going to probably have that conversation because I don't want to get your hopes up. However, if you phrase it like you'd like to have an informational interview, that means that you're not expecting anything from me, but a good conversation. And from that conversation, I'm going to have a chance to connect with you or not, hopefully to connect. And then if I do connect, or you feel like we've connected, then my challenge to any and all of you that are listening would be to ask for 2 connections before you get off the phone or the call or the Zoom call. And you can set that up at the beginning of the call if you get the informational interview, because that means that during this time that we're having this conversation, that you've already said, I'm looking for 2 connections. And that is something that, to this day, I've found so valuable to the people that I'm speaking to and with, because then if they're listening to me, by the end of the conversation, we've already weaved it in and spoken about the 2 people that I'm going to connect them with. And if not, by the end of the conversation, if they don't ask, then they haven't been paying attention, and it's not worthy of my time to move forward. So I just found that very valuable and invaluable, the informational interview, as well as the connections. And as you said, I'm a connector. I love connecting people. And, there's so many people that are so busy, but if you phrase it as an informational interview, it takes the pressure off the interviewer, and it opens up the possibilities versus shutting a door.
Well, and what you hit it spot on the head is that you're sort of removing that barrier or that expectation, or just saying, hey, Miss Gerson, and we also say, like, know your target so well. Hey, Miss Gerson, hook 'em horns. Your success with the Olympics at Coca-Cola has been amazing. I'd like to get 10 to 15 minutes worth of your advice, because that's softening the target. And then I always say, never go out of any form of informational interview where you don't have 2 or 3 other, almost like a pyramid type thing, like, hey, Dina, are there a couple of people that I should call them for advice? Well, call my good friend Vince Thompson. So then that person is going to parlay that, and they're going to say, well, Mr. Thompson, I was speaking to Miss Gerson, and so all of a sudden I'm going to spring up and go, well, hey, if Dina was talking to him, they're worth the salt. And then if my dear friend Dina talked to him and she dropped my name, I'm going to take that call or that informational interview.
I agree, so but there's one better, Vince.
Tell me more.
It's if I make the intro. In other words, yes, that person can reach out to you and put my name in the subject line, and I think that you'll look at that.
Because I'm a special guy, of course, but let's just say that I wasn't.
You're correct. But by the same token, if I am so impressed with the person that I'm
Hmm.
talking to, then I'm going to reach out to you and via email and copy
Hmm.
them so that it's that important. I didn't just leave it up to them to reach out to you and say Dina Gerson said. But
Right.
if it's just that extra touch, that extra connection to make sure that you get the person, because I'm thinking there's a reason why I'm going to connect you to, and that person will tell you if I don't get to you first what it is. But I think that, it could go either one of two ways. They reach out to you or I do, but either way, if, there is that connection, what a gift that is to not only the person who's looking for the job, but then the person who might have the job opportunity. Or there might be a reason, Vince, that I send somebody over to you and it's not for a job.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a job there potentially, but I know that when they start talking about X, that's your sweet spot, and you'll be able to connect them to two other people, and so on and so on. And that's how the world works. I mean,
Right.
I know how important social media is. I know that everyone has been told to be aware of your social media presence, and also be self-aware, how important that is. But there are other ways and means in which to connect. And there's the other advice I like to give, and it's hard for you and I to follow, is listen more than you speak. And I
Right.
know in this conversation it's difficult, but it's such a gift to be able to tune in and listen to somebody and learn. And had I not listened to my journalism teacher way back
Right.
when, and had I just spoken and pontificated about how much I learned and enjoyed and all that, and had I not listened to her message, again, it changed. It was my aha moment. It changed my entire life. And I am forever grateful to her. And I, went back and spoke to her journalism classes. She has
Wow.
passed away since then, but I love telling that story because you never know. It does not have to be a teacher. It does not have to be a professor. It does not have to be
No.
a close friend. She
No.
didn't know me like my family did or my close friends did.
Yeah.
She saw me at school an hour a day, and then after school putting the paper
Hmm.
out, and she learned that early on for me. And anyone who takes an interest in you or shares with you something, take a listen. And it could be people in school that you're with, or people, it could be relatives, it could be friends, and it could be somebody you barely know but you're in a 1 hour meeting with, and they say, gosh, you've really got a good handle on X. Just listen, because
Right.
it could change your life.
You never. By the way, you never know. And you hit on something I want to unpack for a couple of minutes. Is that the value of relationships and the value of reciprocation in a relationship, RE, and the value of respect within a relationship, because particularly now it moves so fast, things come around so fast. But you and I have had this amazing, nearly 2 decades relationship where you pick up the phone, I'm going to respond. You send something to me, I'm going to respond. But I want you to talk to our students about your philosophy on relationships.
I value relationships. I thrive on relationships. I do everything I can to work at relationships, and they're not a given, and it takes
No.
work, and it's give and take. And there's nothing more important. I manage the relationship with the United States Olympic and Paralympic property and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. That's a big deal. And I say that's a big deal in that I'm entrusted to manage this partnership, this relationship. And it is humbling and exciting and invigorating to think about that I have this incredible opportunity to make a difference. And
Hmm.
I try and make the relationships that I have, the partnerships that I have, better and better each and every day. And my goal is to leave something better than I found it. And
Hmm.
I don't mean, leave in the technical sense, but I just want to make any relationship or partnership that I'm a part of as great as it can be. And there's not enough time and hours in the day. I have the absolute best job in the company. And I say that, teasingly, but not in that I get to manage these partnerships and relationships with not only Team USA, the Olympic committees, but also these athletes. And it also takes a lot of work. It is not just all for show. It takes time, it takes energy. It's not 9 to 5. My job, anybody who knows me knows, it's not 9 to
24/7.
It is 24/7, 365. It is, but that's part of who I am and the relationship, the people in my world, my work. People know my family, and my family knows my work friends and the athletes. I mean, it's all together, and that's how I operate. And that is how I've treated these athletes and the Olympic committees as family. And that has worked. And again, I'm always learning. I'm trying to go and better myself and my brand each and every day and learn.
We never stop learning, that's for sure.
Right. Never, I'm trying to learn new things. I've been at the company, the Coca-Cola Company, for 31 years, and I'm very proud of it. And I keep learning. This summer, I've learned more than I have in a long time because I've been able to focus. So the silver lining for me of COVID is I've been able to focus on things that I've been too busy to focus on before. And I credit Vince a lot to you and the team at Melt, who has taught me a lot and continues to teach me each and every day. I learn something new, and whether I want to or not.
Yeah, we've all sort of been in the silver lining bracket this summer, for sure. But like I said, I can personally attest. You and I've been, damn near all over the country together, and in so many amazing places and things and people. But I've never seen just a beautiful, universal greeting or universal welcome. We're going to the Olympic headquarters in New York. We're in Salt Lake together. We're in LA together. No matter where we are, together, and other mutual friends and things like that. And like I said, I won't, you've hit on so many amazing. It's almost like that you and I scripted this, but we share a brain. So I'm not shocked that we had such an amazing interview. But so I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit because I have you've probably during your storied career worked with hundreds or thousands of athletes. I've been with you so many times. You gave me an opportunity to moderate a panel with Mike Urzioni that got me in 1980. U.S. Olympic hockey team, one of the greatest moments of my life, got me on my path. I mean, you've been able to provide me with those so many moments. But of all time since 1928, if you could go all the way back and say, okay, there's one athlete that we never got to do a deal with Coke, but if I was in charge, who would that be of all time?
I honestly,
I'm trying to pin you here on a little bit because I know you've been around the best, and I know like Janet Evans and Christy Yamaguchi and Mike Urzioni and Summer Sanders and Simone and Rowdy and
Alex Morgan
and
Johnson. Correct. I mean, they're all. I love that question. I've never been asked that question. I love it. I want to think about it.
Probably Charles Barkley, since he's an Auburn guy. That's who I would probably pick.
On that note, actually, this is a good one. This, I have an answer for it, and it will speak volumes. I thought that we'd get to talk a little, and it would give my brain a chance to continue to think who, but the one that didn't end up being an Olympic athlete was Jordan Spieth. So we partnered.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
With Jordan, and due to it was the Zika virus, and his wife Annie at the time was concerned. He was concerned for his wife Annie because pregnant,
Yeah.
if somebody got pregnant, there was a chance of challenging the health of the baby.
And the Olympics were in Brazil for
Correct, in
2016
Rio.
as well.
And we had partnered with Jordan, and he was going to be part of our 6-pack. And he pulled out of the Olympics on that last Monday.
Yeah, I remember.
Exactly. And I was devastated because Jordan...
We all were, yeah.
I was devastated because of so many reasons, and everybody wanted Jordan to go to the Olympics. Jordan wanted to go. We did a shoot with him, and he was so excited about the Team USA.
I remember that.
He wanted to keep the gear. He's all about the team. Anybody who watches him knows.
And he's a great guy, and he's a Texas guy.
Right, he's a Texas guy. Yes. So I wanted to partner with him on the Olympics, but he ended up not going. And the nice thing is we were able to pivot, and we ended up having, it's funny, we had Nastia Lukin, who's also a Dallas, Frisco, Plano girl. Nastia was, instead of our legend, we brought her into our 6-pack. So it all worked out. That would have been, just a cool thing. It was fun hanging out with the golfers in Rio. I got to know Ricky Fowler and a couple of the others. Cooch, Matt Kuchar, Georgia Tech guy. But that was one that I was really looking forward to.
Right.
But I wanted to touch, Vince, for a minute on the opportunities that the Coca-Cola Company has given me to participate in charities and different organizations outside of the company, because it's important for us to get involved in our community. And I am privileged to be a part of so many different organizations, but there are a couple that I do want to highlight. And one is the Atlanta Sports Council. And I've been part of the Sports Council, I think, for 10 years or so.
Dan Corso, Coach Corso's son.
Yeah, so Dan is the president of the Atlanta Sports Council. And the beginning of January 2020, I took on the job of being the first female board chair of the Atlanta Sports Council. And with COVID going on and so many other challenges, it's been such a rewarding opportunity to get to know these board members, because we're all not, running in and out from these board meetings, but we're able to talk and have additional conversations. I led a courageous conversation with the board in between board meetings on everything going on with Black Lives Matter and how important it is to get involved in the city. And I'm actually leading another conversation with the group shortly, where there's a women's part of the Atlanta Sports Council where we're going to get together. I had a conversation today with one of our board members who's excited about just learning from each other during this time. We're all not competitors. We're all in a safe place and safe space. And so that's been humbling. I'm on the board of the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival, which started in the year 2000. So we're 20 years old. I'm a past co-chair, but as important, I got asked to co-lead our COVID-19 task force, which has been so interesting to talk to the other board members who are involved in so many of the challenges that we are at the Coca-Cola Company. And it's just fun to learn from them and take a step back. Just happy to be where I am, doing what I do, and the relationships and the connections that I've made since I started. I'm going to say at the company, but, go back 5 years before that, I was at Macy's doing PR and special events, and I was able to get that job. My dad, when I was in Dallas, got the newspaper. He knew that I was interested in, the jobs were tough, and I had gotten one in Dallas, but it was a 100% commission sales advertising position.
Wow.
And they were nervous for me, and I was nervous for me. That's not where I wanted to be and land. And my dad had, back in the day, gotten the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Sunday paper and saw a job for a PR and special events coordinator at Macy's. And what a lucky job opportunity that was. And my story there to get that job was crazy, crazy, but also it's funny, full circle, that Macy's, at that job, I loved it. It was amazing. It was incredible. And there were things that I liked and knew that I didn't like. And when a headhunter came and got me over to Coke, my final interview was with a guy named Steve Koonin. And
Wow.
today, and my mentor as well. And, that was probably 35 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And today we announced, the Atlanta Sports Council announced that
I saw that.
Steve
Amazing.
is being honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Atlanta Sports Awards presented by Coca-Cola. And so it's so cool that I was asked for a quote in that press release. Talk about coming full circle. And, it's the relationships, the connections. I could never speak enough about how important they are, and that you just never know. And you and I
You
both
do not, you don't know, and that thing's moving in full circle. And it's interesting to bring up Steve because President Steve Koonin, President Atlanta Hawks, formerly President of Turner, and marketing guru of gurus, Coca-Cola Company. He's going to join our podcast a little later in the summer. But to your point, the essence of relationships, and I think our students, they hear your passion. They hear that we don't ever take our jobs or another day for granted. They hear the value of these amazing relationships, and just we're all in a new world now, in a challenging world, and our kids coming out, which is why we've had so much fun this summer. Really connecting with people like you to really sort of share their love and their leadership and their passion out there. So we're already an hour into this thing. It's been amazing. We could go like 8 or 10 hours, but to our listeners, to our students, I want you guys to listen to this. I want you to listen to it over and over again. There's so many nuggets of wisdom, so many great insight as well. And you do want a career in the Olympic movement. Dina Gerson is the one to know. And we could have spent, an entire 8 hours lecturing. We may even have to do it, come back and revisit it again. But Dina Gerson, head of, and this is an understatement, Olympic marketing for the Coca-Cola Company, president of Atlanta Sports Council, board of directors at Atlanta Jewish Film Festival, many, many other awards and accolades. But again, no award big enough for the size of her heart and value system. So we really appreciate you joining us today and sharing this amazing. It's been great for me. I got a lot of great learnings out of it as well. I'm inspired.
Vince, thank you. As I said at the beginning, I'm super humbled and just honored to be part of your Melt You Summer Series. And I'll end with saying something that I haven't said yet, but one of the pieces of advice and one of the things that I think about is I like to surround myself with 3 to 5 people that I can always count on, both personally and professionally. And you are one of my people. You have been since I've known you for, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a great way to end this because, as you go through your career, you can always learn from others. You can always help others. But when you know that you can count on somebody, regardless, personally or professionally,
right,
to ensure that you keep, your attitude in check and that you are taken care of and you've got a partner in whatever you're doing and you've got somebody you can run things by, it's the greatest gift in the world. And
it really
I
is.
appreciate, Vince, your gift of friendship personally and professionally, and I look forward to many more years together. And I love that I'm on your journey and you're on mine, and I can't wait to get a signed copy of the book.
Yeah, well, well, thank you, Dina. Like I said, this has been amazing, and I know that you're going to get a lot of tremendous feedback from our students. You're going to get a lot of handwritten notes from our students. They're going to seek you out, for your wisdom, going forward. But this has just been amazing, and so students, like I said, you can see why she's the best of the best and one of the great ones. Hear that passion, but Dina, we appreciate you joining the summer 2020 virtual Melt University for our students. And we roll on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.